Peter Wright wants done over 4,000. It's mad.
Really? Okay, now. There we go. It only takes a few like that, doesn't it? And it really puts us out there. So.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to Football Now, a new football YouTube channel where we'll ordinarily be looking at the latest round of Premier League fixtures. We've got a bit of a one-off video today. We're just going to be taking an overall look at how the things have been going in the Premier League so far, the title race, the relegation battles, and everything in between. Obviously, we're in an international break this weekend, so provides a good opportunity to see how things are going so far. In the top division, I'm joined by Connor. First of all, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing fine, thank you, Brad.
Very well. Before we get into things, I want to remind everyone of the ongoing competition we've got on here at Football Now on our road to 100 subscribers. As you can see there, it says on screen, win a football shirt of your choice. Just subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. The more videos you comment on, not just this one, but all the videos we've done so far and other videos we'll be doing moving forward. We're going to have a second video out today, as well as this one where we're going to be looking at England and heading into the international break and their fixtures this weekend and over the coming week. So like I said, get involved. One lucky commenter will be pulled out to win a football shirt of their choice. Follow us on the Twitter over there as well, at footballnow_1. That's where the winner will be announced. So, like I said, get involved and hopefully you will be that lucky winner. Connor, I think today we're just going to have a general discussion over how things have been going so far in the Premier League. I think is it 8 games in now?
8 games in, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one because title races, I mean, I don't really want to use this language. I was going to say blown wide open. I mean, you can't really say that 8 games in, but obviously City started off the season so strongly, winning every single game. And then they, excuse me, let's get some water.
Sean Dyche.
They came and stuck against Wolves, which was a bit of a shock defeat. Then they lost to Arsenal as well, who obviously they're one of their title challengers. And I think it's the first time City have lost back-to-back games in 5 years, something like that. And it's the first time in 13 games that Arsenal have beaten Manchester City in the Premier League. So it's had a huge effect. I mean, you see the odds there. Manchester City were a lot shorter than that last week. I think they were about 4-9 when I looked, and now nearly evens. Arsenal, as you would expect, still firmly in second favourite at 4-1. But then you've got Liverpool and Tottenham. Tottenham are top of the league at the moment. They've had a fantastic start. Arsenal and Spurs both on 20 points. Neither have lost a game yet. The only 2 unbeaten teams left in the Premier League. So, I mean, you can see there. I mean, Manchester City third, 2 red dots next to the name back to back. It's just absolutely unheard of, isn't it? So, like the title says, I mean, this could be the one of the closest Premier League races, or at least the most competitive in terms of the number of teams there. Because really, any one of those 4 teams could win the Premier League. I mean, all those 4 teams are playing really, really well. You have to say that they deserve pretty much by and large the points that they've got on the board. When we flashed up the odds earlier, you saw Newcastle there as well. I mean, I know that they're sitting in 8th place, 13 points, but they had a period in the middle, didn't they, where they lost to Liverpool, then lost to Brighton, and lost to Manchester City in back-to-back games. But since then, they've been absolutely fantastic, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. So they found their form again after a bit of a slow start to the season. So, you can't even rule. I mean, I'm not going to say that, that they're going to win the Premier League, but they're certainly going to be surging right up that table and battling for that top 4. So it's so competitive at the moment, not just for the title race, but also for that top 4. Obviously, me and you, I'm an Arsenal fan, you're a Liverpool fan, so we've both got a real vested interest in this. What do you make of the race so far?
Yeah, I think like you said there, the fact that it's 5 years or so, or a long time at least, and City have lost back-to-back games in the league kind of shows you what you're up against. That this has almost been treated like a crisis by some, and they've lost a couple of games. And they've lost, I think, the key component, the loss of Rodri. Obviously, he's been suspended for the last 3. It shows you how pivotal he is. Obviously, you expect him now to come back in. I think it shows how important he is to that side, like I said. And if he was to get an injury, for example, I've obviously got De Bruyne out. They've not really missed him too much, with Alvarez stepping up and really, finding his own form. Rodri, it showed he's probably the most important player in that side. I
don't think Manchester City have a like really for Rodri.
No,
and he is arguably the best in the world in his position, or certainly, definitely top 3. But you could argue he is the best. It's been so important, Manchester City, and it's just been highlighted by he's been missing. I mean, even again against Wolves, we've talked about in so many of our previous videos that Wolves have been struggling to score. Manchester City have the joint best defensive record in the Premier League, along with Arsenal, and they put a couple of past them. So, that position is so important. It's the reason why Arsenal spent 100 million on Declan Rice. It's the reason why Chelsea spent 115 million on Caicedo. It's the reason why Liverpool bid over 100 million for him.
Yeah,
teams recognise how important that position is, and highlighted by, like you said, Rodri missing. He's he gets suspended for 3 games and City lose 2 of them.
Yeah, I think that can. We're speaking about Liverpool later on. I think that's going to be a position which could ultimately cost them. I think it's highlighted again against Brighton, how much they're still struggling in that area. Like you said, we got Endo in; he's not playing. And similar situation with Calvin Phillips. I think like you said, they've not got a like-for-like replacement for Rodri. He's been on the bench, but he's not getting opportunities, and there's a lot of talk about why that is. Personally, I think it's going to be as simple as Pep Guardiola sees him every day, and he obviously isn't liking what he's seeing. He went with Rico Lewis and Bernardo in almost like a pivot at the Emirates over Calvin Phillips. Rico Lewis, I think, is he a fullback normally, and Bernardo Silva is normally much further up the pitch. What did you make of the game? Obviously, you're an Arsenal fan. You saw the game. It was a close game, wasn't it? I don't think it was the best quality on show necessarily. It was cagey. I think both sides knew how important it could be. But I think we've said early on in the season, if you're going to beat Man City to the title, I've said especially, you need to get at least 4 points out of the 2 games you get from them. Like you said, it felt like a big hurdle was passed at the weekend by Arsenal, not just necessarily in the title race, but going back to that level again where they can win and get over the line in those big games, which we know will be so crucial. This City side has been shown over the years. So, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, but I think mentally it was huge. I mean, it wasn't the best game to watch for the neutral, but I think what you see in those games, in that game, is 2 sides who really respect each other and recognise the dangers that each side has. So they were both teams were set up really well defensively, being hard to break down. And I think first and foremost, they were thinking, let's just be solid and not concede. Haaland did not get a sniff. Arsenal beat Manchester City in the Community Shield. And in that game and in the game that just played, Erling Haaland's XG was 0.00. So if you're taking Erling Haaland, the best striker in the world, out of the game, then you are on your way to at least getting something from that game. I think my worry with Arsenal is, and I think it's been highlighted throughout the season, but I think it was particularly highlighted in the Manchester City game, is that centre-back partnership that we've got with William Saliba and Gabriel is so important. And if something happens to that partnership, then that could derail us, which is what happened last season, actually, when we lost William Saliba. That's when our form really plummeted. And, it's a bit like, actually, when Manchester City, lost Rodri. Their form has plummeted. Well, I say plummeted, it's only 2 games. But yeah, I think that game was a different approach from Arsenal. I think you could see that Arteta recognised that he had to do something different, because last season, I feel like we tried to play a bit more football. Now, don't get me wrong, we still tried to do that, because David Raya was still playing out from the back, and he had some dodgy moments, to be fair, but he still persevered and he still did that. But I just think, when we were pushing forward and had the ball, we weren't rushing things. We always had in the back of our mind, the threat that Manchester City possess. So I think the different approach there really shows the maturity of this young Arsenal team, because it is still a young Arsenal team with a young manager. And I think last season, the experience there in both of those Manchester City games that we lost has helped this season. But yeah, it's and we were talking off camera, and I know you agree with me. We still make Manchester City the favourites. You know, we expect Rodri to come back in the next game. And I just think if you look at their squad, their squad depth is just so much better than everyone else. And you know, even taking the squad depth out of the equation, I just think they just have a better team. That's not to say that teams can't run them close. I mean, you can win the Premier League with having an inferior team. You know, it's been done before. But yeah, I think if we get luck with injuries, and same with Liverpool, if Liverpool get luck with injuries, then there's no reason why Manchester City can't be beaten. They won the treble last season. You expect a hangover. I know Gary Neville's spoken about it. You know, that when you do win the treble, it is a bit like, well, we've sort of done everything now. So it's very hard to get that motivation for the following season. I mean, I guess the only way you could one up that almost is to quadruple, which is already gone for Manchester City. I'm not saying that they've become complacent, but you know, it is difficult to find that extra motivation. Whereas Liverpool and Arsenal and Tottenham are going to have that in abundance.
Yeah, you mentioned the centre-back partnership there at Arsenal as well. I think something which has been discussed, I'm not sure it was necessarily relevant in the City game at the weekend, because obviously Martinelli comes on and he gets the goal, is the striker. You do look at the Arsenal side and you wonder, is there anyone there who can get 20, 25 goals a season? Obviously, you know what Haaland's done for City. Salah's been doing it for Liverpool for years now. I think the same with Tottenham. I know Tottenham are top right now and they're doing great, and I don't see in a couple of months, I don't see them being up there with even the three. I just don't see that. I think they're more in a battle for top four rather than looking above them. And who knows, Liverpool and Arsenal, you don't know what's going to happen. Like you said, etc. Let's talk of Ivan Toney, obviously who's suspended right now for the betting scandal at Brentford. He's been linked with a move to Arsenal in January. I think it's come out, the report saying that he'd be keen on that move. I think he almost flirted with the idea on a podcast he did a couple of months ago.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've read yesterday from quite a good source when it comes to Arsenal, is that I mean, there is a lot of noise, but it seems to be a lot of noise from the Toney camp at the moment. Not sure how serious Arsenal have been at the moment, but certainly, you know, they will be looking at a striker, because goal scorers, you know, they're hard to come by. I mean, you know, we spoke about it in previous episodes, in previous videos that we've done on this channel. There's not too many about in the world, let alone the Premier League, and an out-and-out goal scorer. I mean, Eddie Nketiah, you know, I love Eddie, but he's not that person. You know, he's not the guy who's going to fire us to the Premier League. And if you look at the other guys that we've got, you know, Jesus and Bukayo Saka, and you've got Trossard and Martinelli and Odegaard, all those are going to chip in with goals. But when it's those really close games, have we got that person who is a one chance, one goal sort of man? No, we don't. And you know, I think that it could cost Arsenal. It could cost Arsenal, because this season actually we've struggled with creating chances. I mean, we've scored 16 goals still, you know, but we have struggled creating chances. And when you are going through a spell where you're not creating chances at will, then you need someone who, when you do get one chance, you do take it. And I think that's the thing we say about Erling Haaland. You know, he can do not a lot in a game, but he gets a sniff and that's it. It's danger. He's going to score more often than not. Same with like Harry Kane and Lewandowski through the years, and Benzema, you know, those sort of, that's what puts them in the elites. They can be doing nothing all game and then bam. And it's why the big teams, when they're not playing well, can still win, because they've got that difference maker at the front of the pitch. So yeah, it's certainly a position that we will be looking at. And I think we will visit Toney, you know, because it makes sense. It makes sense that we visit Toney, but it depends what sort of fee Brentford are going to demand. I can imagine it's going to be quite substantial. And when you've got a player who's not played for so long, It's whether Arsenal, number one, Arsenal willing to do that, and number two, if Arsenal can afford that. I mean, we've brought in a lot of players over the past few transfer windows without recuperating too much in transfer fees. So FFP is going to come into it as well. So, we do have to bear that in mind.
Yeah, you mentioned Haaland. I remember watching them away at Sheffield United. He looked like he was having an absolute nightmare. I think he missed a penalty, didn't he, as well for City? He runs up
Yes.
to the end in the second half and he ends up bagging one. And obviously they end up winning that game 2-1 thanks to a late Rodri goal. They can be the difference makers. You saw Salah at the weekend. Obviously Liverpool only draw, but he has a couple of chances. I've won from the penalties, and he buries it. He buries them. There was also a lot of talk, especially on commentary on the game against City, about Raya in goal. Obviously, he's on loan from Brentford, replacing Aaron Ramsdale, who's on the bench. He's been your keeper for the last couple of years. Let's talk. I don't know if you've watched the podcast that Neville did with the likes of Jamie Carragher, Roy Keane, Ian Wright, and Jill Scott. I think it was. It came out last night, and they were talking about it. And there was talk about whether he was overly nervous or whether he was too cool, etc. In his whole demeanour. What did you make of him when you were watching the game?
Yeah, I mean, well, he made a mistake in midweek against Lawns, and he was nervy against Manchester City, and he did make a few errors. But I think when you're playing that type of football, errors are inevitable. And I think what you've got, I think as long as you can power through and still persevere with that style of play, then I think it'll be okay, because it is a little bit. It's not different. I mean, he did play out from the back to an extent with Brentford, but obviously this is a step up. But I think when Arteta first came in, this is what he always wanted to do: play out from the back, and it cost us a lot of goals to start with, because it was awful, because we had our players. Our defenders at the back were just making mistakes, giving the ball away in dangerous areas. I was screaming at my TV saying, just put it into Rosa, just hoof it up the field. But, he persevered. He worked with his team and they got used to that. And we are reaping the rewards of that. So, yeah, it's something that he's got to persevere with. I don't know whether the nervousness in the Manchester City game came from a bit of a hangover from the mistake that he made against Lawns, but he spoke about there that they discussed on the podcast whether it was nervousness. I mean, he's facing arguably the best pressing team in the Premier League. I mean, Manchester City are just so good at getting everyone working together. So arguably that is his hardest game that he's had to come through, and he has come through with a clean sheet. Strange to say that he weren't really challenged too much in terms of the shot stopping, but I know that we've been looking at Raya for a long time since Brentford were in the Championship. So I think with what Arteta and Edu have done for the club, they've done enough to earn my trust and earn my patience with that. I would have liked to. I mean, I'm not going to get drawn into the debate, Raya or Ramsdale. I think they were both fine. My only slight issue with bringing in Raya is if we had 30 million spare, we could have reinvested that towards the front of the pitch. Maybe trying to get in a replacement for Saka. So not a replacement, but backup for Saka, because an injury was inevitable. I mean, fortunately, it's not a long-term injury, but it's it is an area I think we are quite light on there, that right-hand side cover. But I mean, we spoke about the strikers. The reason why Bayern Munich spent £100 million on a 30-year-old Harry Kane was because, again, they didn't have that. And also, sorry, my daughter's gone. We see it with Chelsea. They've really struggled for goals because they don't have that number 9. How much money has been spent on Lukaku with teams hoping that he's their answer? People are willing to spend money and take the risk because there really is none out there. And I actually think it's probably one of the reasons why Eddie Nketiah is getting, I mean, we've got to talk about it in the next video, but getting call-ups for England, because I know he's not a prolific, but he is that sort of player who is good at, he is a poacher.
Yeah, like Man City, I said, I think you mentioned how long it's been since they've suffered back-to-back defeats. It's going to be inevitable talk about, are they crumbling? Is it going to be different this year? I think we both agree we'll have to see a lot more before we even start to consider the fact that they're not going to be the favourites still. We look at the standard they've set over the years. But I will say for Arsenal, I think we said it in the preview, this might be the worst time to play City coming off the back of, obviously, the loss to Wolves and to Newcastle in the Cup, but Arsenal, they really did just hold their own. But, they got over that line, like you said. There was talk about a potential mental block because of the, your recent form against City. That could be a real pivotal moment when you look back at it. But I think we both agree that if Arsenal are going to win the league, I think they can. But if they are going to, they do need to bring in a striker, whether that's Ivan Toney, maybe Victor Osimhen, who knows. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about him at Napoli at the moment with the social media video that was put out. I know Real Madrid are linked with him. I don't know whether Arsenal have been linked with him. He's just a name that popped into my head.
It would be very difficult, I think, I think with the transfer fee he would be commanding, because I think with Declan Rice, I know there were other people in for Declan Rice, but I think he wanted to stay in London. Whereas I think with Victor Osimhen, I think there's going to be so much competition that, I just think Arsenal are just going to get outpriced.
Yeah, Real Madrid are screaming out for a centre forward. I think I can see him going there. We see the table there. Tottenham obviously top after 8 games. I think they'd snatch your hand off for that. I think many people saw that come in. We spoke about Arsenal and Man City. Might as well go for Tottenham, seeing as they're top. A victory away at Luton on, it was a 12:30 kickoff. I think it was. I think they had a player sent off as well, didn't they? Tottenham.
They did. Yeah, Basuma sent off for a dive.
I mean, yeah, I was watching that and I was, what are you doing? It was a crazy decision from him. But Van der Ven, who's been an incredible signing for them, I think if we were to sit here and talk about the best signings so far, I think there'd be a number of players from Tottenham discussed. Maddison, Van der Ven, also one of them gets his first goal. Maddison getting the assist as well. 1-0 away at Luton. I know Luton haven't exactly set the league on fire, but it can be a trick, especially the early kick-off away from home, losing them, going a man down, especially with all the talk on the back of the Liverpool game. Obviously, they win that, but there's a lot of focus on VAR. We didn't even touch on the Kovacic incident. I don't know if you want to go into that, but the Tottenham, first of all, it's 3 more points added onto the board, 8 games in. I think, like I said, I don't think anyone expected them to hit the ground like this.
Yeah, I think we're giving them too much credit there. I mean, it is only Luton, shoot me Luton fans, but I know they had a man sent off, but like you said, Luton haven't been very good. Actually, I think if you look at it, was an interesting game that, because Luton should have had about 3 or 4. I mean, they had a lot of good opportunities. They missed an absolute sitter in the first half to go 1-0 up. They had a lot of chances, but I think it's that thing with Tottenham. It's at what point are they going to start missing Harry Kane, because they've not replaced him?
No, we'll come back to bite him. I do think that.
I think Son is a world-class player, but now you've got that debate going on. Do you play him out wide, or do you try and play him through the middle now? I think we can categorically say that Richarlison is just as a flop. He's not the guy. I think if he's not going to get. I think he's going to have to get at least 15 Premier League goals a season as a minimum, because someone has got to replace those Harry Kane goals, and it's quite a low target actually, considering the amount Kane was scoring. And I just don't think. I think Richarlison, he's so many chances for his scores, he's not clinical enough. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Son. Fortunately, at the moment, they've got James Maddison firing on all cylinders. You mentioned it. You could argue that he has been the signing of the season so far. He's been absolutely outstanding. If he dips in form, though, I think that's going to be a big issue. I mean, he might not dip in form. He's a quality player, and he's shown that so often for Leicester. He's been an established England international and Premier League player now for so long that, we know he's not a flash in the pan. But I just think at the moment everything's going well. But can they sustain this with loss of Harry Kane? That is a huge void that has not been filled. But yeah, no, Tottenham do deserve to be there. I think. I know Basuma got sent off for diving. What is he thinking? Credit to the referee there, to be fair to him. I know we've been giving him a lot of stick over the past few weeks, referees, rightfully so. But it takes balls to send a player off that early on for a dive, because you have to be absolutely sure. And when you look at the replays, it was. And obviously, Bissouma knew it was a dive. He didn't. As soon as the referee blew for a foul, he was not complaining. He was just walking straight off. But yeah, I think you were right in what you were saying. And I do think their aim is a top four. I don't see them challenging for the Premier League. I just don't think they quite have the squad for that. I don't think they have that guy at the front of the pitch to do that. And I think if they did lose James Maddison for any period of time, I think they would really struggle because he's been so vital and so important. I mean, even for the goal against Luton, he set that up. It was just great. Plays a short corner, goes around the defender on the byline, whips it, and he's just everything good in an attacking sense for Tottenham goes through James Maddison at the moment. So, last season obviously missed out on in Europe. This season, I think if you miss out on Europe and get Champions League football, it's a huge success. I think Chelsea would obviously would snap your hand off for that. So yeah, I think that's there. I mean, they got 20 points on the board. I'm just going to get up their next few fixtures. It's actually not too bad as well. Not too bad run of fixtures. They got Fulham at home next, Crystal Palace away, then they got Chelsea at home, Wolves away, and then they got Aston Villa at home. So they're okay. They're not too bad actually. But yeah, I think top four is going to be their aim.
I think looking at the fixtures now, I've just got them up as well. The month to watch them in is December and see how they come through with that because they've got some hard games there. Like you say, I think they've got no Europe, I think, which could work in their favour. Again, this isn't a slight on Tottenham because no one even have them anywhere near a title challenge. I know they're top right now. I don't see them being anywhere near that come February, March time, but nor should they be.
I certainly don't think there's any value in 14-1 there. See the odds on the screen.
No, I don't see them being around there, but they're heading in the right direction so far. I know it's very early days, but I think that's what you look for. You look for that progress, and you can sense that Ange is building something, that there's a plan in place that he's working towards. Like you said, the questions over the goal. I think Son, he didn't have a great year last year, did he? Heung-min Son, he's got 6 goals so far already this season, so that's a boost to them. But like you said, I think there's still questions over where those goals, that obviously, the gap's been left now by Harry Kane. When who will step up to the mark and provide them. The other side in the top 4, I think, is currently sitting 4th in the table is Liverpool, drawing 2-2 away to Brighton on Sunday afternoon.
I did give them a personal guarantee that Liverpool would not win that game. Thank you for a late goal then.
I was hoping you forget about that. I had 2-1 and went 2-1 up with that Salah penalty, and it was 15-20 minutes left. I thought, just hold on, and we can get a nice clip on the YouTube, but it didn't happen. There were spells in that game. I think it's probably a summary of Liverpool's season where Liverpool looked brilliant for 15 minutes spell after in the second half. They were in charge. They were fully in control of that game. Gravenberch misses an incredible chance to make it 3-1, and at the time when that doesn't go in, I was thinking, are we going to be left to regretting that? And obviously we were. It's just the problem for Liverpool. I touched on it briefly in the start of the video when we were talking about Rodri. Is that number 6 role? Alexis McAllister is being forced to play there right now, and he's not a number 6. And you can see it. We've seen it, especially away from home. In games this season, Wolves away, he had a nightmare, and at the weekend, he was in that first half, especially. He was.
Oh well, we muted Brad. That's good. I've always wanted us to do that. He's just ranting about Liverpool. We don't need to hear him. I think Liverpool's problem, as Brad is trying to say. I don't know if he's still trying to say. He's still muted, but is he living?
I don't know.
Oh, he's back. Oh dear me.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. It just came up with a notification. But where was I? McAllister. The ball's played.
Yeah, you were just talking a lot of box.
Yeah. Nothing new there. The ball's played into McAllister's feet by Van Dijk. Not a great pass, but caught a bit flat-footed. Brighton player nicks it from between him. Alisson's positioning as well was very strange. We love Alisson. He saved us so many times over the last couple of years. But
I hear what you're saying. Alisson's washed. I hear what you're saying.
Here we go. David Raya. No, but yeah, there were spells, and that, like I said, I think I said to us off camera, there at times Liverpool are brilliant, and you think wow, we've got a real side in that, a real team building here. But there are other spells you think, my God, they look miles off it. The defending, that second goal, I think it might have been Solly March. He was going nowhere. There was no need to just bring him down naively. The ball gets played in. Robertson's at the front post, and he sticks like he doesn't even attempt. I understand why. I think he was cautious of giving away, the own goal, but it just gets played. And Lewis Dunk can't believe his luck. And look, Liverpool City have lost their last 2 games in the league. 6 points dropped. Liverpool have gained 1, and Liverpool fans know more than anyone that if you are going to beat Man City to the league, you need to make the most of when they're dropping points. Ordinarily, in any other Premier League season or era, Liverpool, I think they're buzzing with the start they've made. Was it 20? Is it 20 points? Or no, 18 points or 17 points? I think from the first 8 games.
18. I think, yeah.
And any other season, I think you're happy with that, but I think we've had our fingers burnt in the past, and we can't help but thinking, is that going to cost us to begin with? Like losing away to Tottenham, we saw how that played out. We did a video on that. You can find that on our channel about the VAR stuff. And then a draw away to Brighton in isolation is not a bad result at all. Brighton are a very good side, but it's just whether you need to, when City drop points, you really need to make a most.
What were you expecting from Liverpool before the start? Because obviously last season was a disaster. I know in the end you only just missed out on top 4 with a really late surge. But I mean, were you expecting a title challenge? Was that the expectation from a Liverpool point of view? What were you hoping for?
I don't think any Liverpool fan was expecting us to win the league. But with the signings made, McAllister and Szoboszlai, and then obviously everything gets thrown up in the air when Henderson and Fabinho go out.
That big loss, Jordan Henderson, yeah.
Yeah. It's in a very sarcastic mood today, Connor. But I don't know. You want to see that we can at least get back to that level where we're competing. I remember very vividly at the start, about 6 weeks left of the transfer window, I sat down in the pub with my friends and I said to them, you're not going to like what I'm about to say, but I had a bet with both of them, £50 each, that we finish with Arsenal.
I'll take the bet on as well. I'll do £50.
I bet you would. But and I said a couple of weeks ago after that Tottenham game, even though obviously the game we lost, but the mentality looked to be back. From last season, there were times where we go a goal behind, our heads would drop, and we look completely, we just didn't know how to respond. We've shown that we can overcome the adversities this season, but it's that number 6, and we've brought in Endo, reeks of a panic buy. Like we said about Calvin Phillips, Klopp just doesn't fancy him for whatever reason, and it tells a lot that he's forcing Alexis McAllister to play in a position which isn't natural to him over Endo. There's talks about Andre from Fluminense coming in January, but there are a lot of points up for grab between now and January, and it wasn't the worst performance in the world by Liverpool, and it wasn't the worst result, like I said, in isolation, but there are concerns if we are to try and, give it that push and to be in for the mix in a couple of months' time. Like you said, draws nowadays feel like losses. I don't know how you feel.
I know exactly what you mean. You talk about there, you talk again, once again, for the 3rd time in this video, we're talking about that position because it is, arguably the most crucial position because, we know how much money teams have spent on that position. I mean, I know you've done really well this season. You're 3 points off top, 1 point behind Manchester City. But you've only kept 1 Premier League clean sheet, and I'm thinking it's Aston Villa at Anfield. You've conceded in every single other game. And that's just not sustainable. And again, it is because of that midfield position. Liverpool have to be going in I think, in the January transfer window, but it's who do you get? Because if there were people in that position who were readily available, real quality, Liverpool would have got them already.
Let's talk of this Andre from Fluminense. Look, I don't watch the Brazilian league. I'm not going to pretend to. We were linked with him over the summer though, and I think there might be a release clause which Fluminense were reluctant to let him go because I think is it the CONMEBOL which they're in over there, and they wanted to keep him for that.
I honestly made that question.
Yeah, they wanted.
No, to be fair, no, it is that. I've played enough bets in the Brazilian league at 2:00 in the morning to know a bit about them.
Yeah, and I think he's came out the reports that he's going to come in January. I don't know enough about him, but you mentioned obviously earlier the bid we put in for Caicedo. It didn't happen. Lavia obviously didn't happen. it was worrying at times watching that game. So I look at McAllister, and about half an hour in, Brighton have a corner, and he's got his hands on his knees. He's blowing out his ass. He looked knackered. He looked absolutely knackered. I do not know how.
Is blowing out of his ass? I mean, he's farting. What?
Have you not heard that before?
No, I've not heard that before.
Blowing out his ass like knackered. It means you're knackered.
No, you just made that. Well, that's just wrong. He's blowing. I'm glad he's blowing, not blowing out of his ass. It was like a jetpack.
That is a thing. I promise you, that's a thing. Blowing out of his ass. But he was very tired. Then let's say he was breathing heavily because he just how he escaped that game without a yellow card. I don't know. I mean, Fabinho used to be the master in his prime. I do not understand how he wasn't booked, but. Again, it shows you again. I think the game reminds you of the importance of Mohamed Salah as well. I know there were talk about him leaving in the summer. We've got depth up front. Got 4 or 5 attackers. I think all of them are capable of providing 10 or 15 goals. But he's the only one who I think is shown. He's got a track record, of being able to bang in 20, 25 goals a season.
What happens if Saudi come in for 31-year-old Mohamed Salah?
What, in January?
Yeah.
In January, no chance. In the summer, I've already conceded he's gone, and he's gone next summer. I always felt that before that he's probably got 1 year left. There's no way we could afford to lose him, because you imagine what this Liverpool side would have been without him. And we haven't played great, but his goals are there. The goals have been evenly spread. I think he's on 6. Diaz has got 3 or 4. Jota the same. Nunes 3 or 4. Gakpo, I think, has got a couple as well. Obviously, he's injured. That was also a factor in the game as well. You could see, obviously, Liverpool normally got options in the bench going forward, at least, whether it be a Nunes or a Jota, depending on who's starting. Obviously, Gakpo's injured and Jota's suspended after the red card at Tottenham. So, it wasn't going our way. And we're kind of looking to the bench thinking, who can we bring on? Gravenberch comes on. He did very well. He missed an absolute sitter, which was very frustrating. But who knows? We'll see this Liverpool side. I think it's still a work in progress. The signs are there that they've got a very good side in them. I mean, we've got to talk about VAR again. How Pascal Gross wasn't sent off for that penalty, I don't know. I mean, someone needs to explain that. He pulled Szoboszlai down. He's about to tap the ball.
We'll probably say something about it next week.
Oh yeah, I've seen the clips. I don't know if we could have done a video on that. We could do 5 or 6 hours on VAR, I think, but we're still recovering from the last one. Conor, I'm interested in on your perspective of Liverpool as well. Obviously, I'm a fan. I'm in the middle of it almost. It can be interesting to get a view of someone who's on the outside. What have you made so far of them?
No. I think, I'm talking about just the top 4 as a whole at the moment. I think when we've spoken about Arsenal, Tottenham, Liverpool, we've said they're missing this, they're missing that. I think the only thing that we've said about Manchester City missing players is they're missing Rodby. Well, he's back now, unfortunately. So in terms of... it could be a close Premier League. I expect it to be a close Premier League. I don't think Manchester City are good. I think if City do win the league, I don't think it's going to be more than 5 points. But they are still favourites for that reason. There's not a first-team player that they desperately need. And I think it is going to take another long-term injury to a Rodri, like a Kevin De Bruyne injury, to really, really trouble them. But yeah, in terms of Liverpool... again, we spoke about it to death, but it is that position. I think, to be fair, they've done quite well because they had to sort of rebuild that midfield very, very quickly. Obviously, Endo and Gravenberch came in very, very late on. They lost Henderson and Fabinho. And, when you're having to reconstruct your midfield that quickly, I think that's actually part of the problems that Manchester United have had. A lot of it is that midfield. So great talking about a Premier League title race and United have not been mentioned.
Yeah.
but it's and it's the reason why Chelsea spent so much money on their midfield. Obviously, Enzo 100 million, Moises Caicedo, Lavia as well as others. So yeah, I think that's the main issue because up front they've got strength and depth. They are conceding quite a lot of goals. Liverpool, you've seen that. They've only conceded 9 goals. It's the fact that they're doing it pretty much every single game. That's the issue. And you can't blame the back 4 all the time because if you've got no protection in front of you, it's like if you're conceding a lot of goals, you can't necessarily blame the goalkeeper because it's only as good as what's in front of him. And it's the same with the back 4. They're only as good as what's in front of them. When you're getting no protection. So yeah, I think if Liverpool, a bit like Tottenham, to be fair, I think if they could get top four comfortably without it being a struggle and stressing about it, then I think that would be progress, because I think Liverpool are going through a bit of a rebuild now, and that rebuild could take maybe another year or two, because number one, Mo Salah's 31, so even if he does stay, he's 31 years old, so he is past this pit. He's still an exceptional player. He's so important for Liverpool, but there is all, he's not going to get better. He's either going to stay or slightly drop off. But also, yeah, like you said, I'd be shocked if he's there past next summer. So that's just another star player that they're going to have to replace. So, yeah, I think for Manchester City and for Tottenham and Liverpool, I think top four would be a good season. But they can't think like that. They've got to be thinking about the league, purely because if they're thinking about top four and they get even a little bit complacent, they've got Aston Villa, they've got Brighton, they've got Newcastle behind them. Shout out to West Ham as well, who are having an outstanding season themselves. So, if they start getting a little bit complacent, they're taking their foot off the gas because they're thinking, well, we're not going to win the Premier League, so we'll focus on top four. All of a sudden, you get those teams coming up from behind you. And, if Liverpool start, blowing out of their arse in this title race, then they could find themselves in a bit of a pickle with the teams coming up. So, yeah, I think we've established that City are still the favourites because just because they don't need anyone else.
Yeah,
they don't need to dip in the transfer market. When January rolls around, I'm sure they'll do a little bit of business, but they don't need to. Whereas Arsenal, we've said for a few seasons now, do lack that goal scorer. Tottenham do now because they've lost Harry Kane. And Liverpool desperately need a defensive midfielder. The problem is every single club in the world knows that as well. So as soon as Liverpool come knocking, that price has gone up 10, 20 million.
Exactly, that's the trouble. Especially when they showed the hand with the Caicedo bid in the summer. I think that was the main concern. Another thing from the game, down that right-hand side, obviously Trent has to come off. He's not long come back from an injury, so he gets about 70 minutes, and Matic comes off as well. For the majority of that game, they have Mitoma pretty much handled between them, the pair of them. Joe Gomez comes on at right back. He's not a right back. And Mitoma, within minutes of him being on the pitch, gets close to the touchline and he's gone. He's just gone past him. I felt sorry for Joe Gomez because he's not a right, but that's another. A lot of talks on about that the centre of the park, and rightly so. But Liverpool need to address that backup right back area as well, because it's just not working. I feel sorry for it. It happened against Wolves. Goes out wide. Pedro Neto just skins him, and you feel bad for him because you're like, what's he meant to do?
We used to have it with Callum Chambers. He would get. I mean, there's a game that really stands out against Swansea way back when, where he just got skinned alive. But it's putting square pegs in round holes. You just can't do that in the Premier League anymore because there's just too much quality.
No.
And there's too much quality throughout the Premier League. It's not just the top sides. I think anywhere from that first position to about 10, maybe. If you're having a makeshift team, you can get punished. I mean, like you said, yeah. I mean, Joe Gomez is not a right back. He does struggle there. Up against Mitoma, he's probably playing against one of the top 5 left wingers in the Premier League, and I think we're blessed with left wingers in the Premier League as well. But against Joe Gomez was just getting skinned alive. It was only on for 20 minutes, but it was blowing out of his ass by the end of it. So I think that is something that they are going to have to address. It's the same with Arsenal as well. I mean, we obviously lost Timber, who was our backup left back. Now, fortunately, at the moment, we got Tomiyasu, who he can sort of play right back and left back, but it's not ideal when you got to play, sometimes playing one side, sometimes playing the other. So yeah, I think, and again, we look at who is the team to beat Manchester City. Another reason why they're so good is because maybe apart from Rodri, they've got a world-class backup pretty much in every position. That strength and depth is just incredible, and that's why they won the treble, because they were able to rotate in all the cup competitions and still put out a team that could beat anyone.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes, doesn't it? You've got Man City we're saying there they don't really need any areas to address. They got Kevin De Bruyne, who's probably, in my opinion, probably the best player in the league to be dropped back in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this sounds like a big statement, but I will stand by it. I think Kevin De Bruyne is one of the best players in the history of football ever. I think he's that good.
Yeah, he's incredible. He is incredible, and to think that he's got to come back into the City side, is scary. And then you mention what Arsenal need just to match them, what Liverpool need to match them. Look, we're buoyed, I think, as Liverpool and Arsenal fans that they've lost their last couple of games, but I think we're gonna have to see a lot more before we even consider.
Don't put us in the same bracket. Your top four, we're title race.
Oh, okay, we'll see. I made a prediction last time. I'm not going to leave myself out to a potential clip again, but we'll. In fact, I think we're going to do that anyway. We're going to predict our top fours in order. I think we both have City top anyway. Do you want to go through yours first, Connor?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Man City first. I just think it is that strength in depth. Unfortunately, I think if they do have players missing, whether it through suspension or whether it's through an injury or whatever, I think they've got the players to come in and still make a real difference. I mean, if Haaland, for example, best player one of the best, the best striker in the league, one of the best players in the league, if he was to miss an extended period of time, Junior Alvarez is more than capable of being an excellent deputy. So I'm going to have to put City first. Second, I'm going to say Arsenal. I think I see no reason why we're going to drop off. Players are coming back from injury now. We saw Partey came back. Brilliant pass, by the way, when it came on against Manchester City. And if we can add a goal scorer as well in January, then that would be fantastic. It's just plus Arsenal aren't going to go deep in Europe. It's not what we do. So come March time, we're not going to have that to worry about at the back end of the season probably. And I just think they're with the way Arteta's got them playing, I just think they're playing the most consistent football out of the other two. I think Tottenham will drop off, and I think it is going to be that lack of a striker really that is going to become a real issue for them. I mean, they've done really well this season. I mean, to the top of the league, so of course they've done well. But I do think getting top four will be an achievement for them. So for me, I mean, that top four does stay the same. Whether who gets third and fourth between City and Tottenham, I think it's hard to say. I'm just going to go with the experience of Jurgen Klopp and Liverpool. So I'm going to say they get third, and I'm going to say Tottenham to get fourth. I'm not biased here. I won't be surprised if they do drop out. Say if a Newcastle could easily break into that top four and knock Tottenham out, especially towards the end of the season with Tottenham squad depth. Fortunately, they're not for them. They're not in Europe, so I can't see them blowing out their ass come April, May, because they don't have that extra European competition. So I do think that's going to be the top four, but you've got Aston Villa, Brighton, Newcastle, and even West Ham that they're going to have to constantly be looking behind their shoulders because there's just so much quality in the Premier League at the moment. We said at the top of the show, the Premier League is the closest it's ever been for the race for the title. Same with the top four. Same with the Europa League, Europa Conference League places. It's so competitive, and it's a great watch for the neutral. It's a great watch if you know the neutral.
Yeah, I'm not thinking it's going to be as close. I do think City, with 6-7 games left, I think they'll pretty much have it wrapped up still. I just think
7 games left. Hang on a minute. You are thinking that with 21 points left to play for, they're going to wrap this up.
But I'm not saying that they'll have it won, but I think they'll be there. I think they're the only side. Not the only side, because Arsenal did very well until around March last season. Liverpool have done it in the past, but I know what they can do. I know that they're capable of going 10, 15 games unbeaten like it's nothing. They've done it time and time again. And I know that they've had a blip. I honestly feel that by start of April, I think they'll have pulled away again. I don't want them to have, trust me. I'd rather Arsenal win the league than them. But I think they have it wrapped up. I think people are getting a little bit carried away because they've lost a couple of games. Look, who knows? There are a lot of factors that we don't know. Like you all know, if Rodri was to get injured, sorry, who knows? But I do think City. I think they'll win it fairly comfortably. Still. We'll see. But that's
I think there'll be a gap between first and seconds, but I don't think they would have wrapped it up with 31 games played.
I don't know. I'll see. We'll come back to this. In a couple of months' time. We'll see where we're at. Look, second, my heart say Liverpool, but I'm just worried about that number 6. But I think Arsenal and Liverpool got worries in different areas. I think you've satisfied what our worry was with Declan Rice, a player that I'd have loved to have seen at Liverpool.
Yeah, we've got Thomas Partey as well. We're blessed in that area.
Exactly. There you go. And but he's not been awful, McAllister. Even though he was tired against Brighton, he has looked like he struggled in some games. But there's part of me which thinks, if we can satisfy that area, we're getting further up, we'll benefit from that. I think there's certainly reason to be optimistic for Liverpool. I don't want to sound like I'm on a downer here at all, but for second place, I'm going to go Liverpool. My heart's going to go Liverpool. I'm going to rule my heart because I know I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to go Liverpool. Third, Arsenal. Fourth, as you were speaking then, I was thinking about Newcastle possibly pipping Tottenham. Tottenham don't have Europe. I suppose it depends how far Newcastle go. I can't see them going to very deep in it.
Just hammered PSG 4-1. Okay.
Hey?
Just hammered PSG 4-1.
Well, yeah, they have, but you never know.
Dan Burns just scored against PSG.
So did Sean Longstaff. But who am I going to back? I think it's the toss-up between those two. I think those two for the fourth. I'll go with Tottenham. Just to go finish to round up the top 4. We'll see. Where are we now? We're approaching middle of October. We'll come back to this video in March, April. We'll see where City are, how many points they are ahead.
If they're ahead.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. I hope you're right, Connor. I hope you're right. This is the one prediction I hope you get right. But
I put City top. I just don't think they're going to win the game, win the league. With 2 years to spare.
2 years, right? We'll see. I feel like what I'm saying is got backed up by what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years. What you're saying is probably buoyed by hope more, but we'll see.
I think what you're saying is a load of bollocks. To be honest with you, I think I've been talking out of facts here.
Go on. Why?
Well, I mean, City, I'm looking at the table now. City are in third place. They're on 18 points. They've lost the past 2 games. I know they've lost Rod, but it's only one pissing player, pardon me French. And it was only a 5-point gap last season. You've not been in a Premier League title race for quite a long time now. So, maybe
okay.
Let's slow it down.
I think Gary Neville might be right about these Arsenal fans getting carried away. That concludes our...
Gary Neville's not right about anything.
Our video. That concludes our video. I can't believe I'm sticking up for Gary Neville. Reviewing the top of the Premier League, 8 games in. We'll see, like I said, we'll come back to this and see where we are in a couple of months' time. Leave your own thoughts in the comments. Like I mentioned at the top of the video, the competition that we got going on here at Football Now on the road to 100 subscribers. I think we're on, is it 70 odd now, Connor?
72, yeah, it's something like that. When
we hit 100, we'll be giving a football shirt away to the winner's choice. Subscribe, and like I said, get involved in the comments, not just this video, the other videos we've done so far. We're going to be doing a video, I think, after this, which should be up not long after this one. We're going to be looking at England, the situation there. Obviously, it's international break this week. So good luck to everyone. The more involved you get. We've got our own head predictor there as well. As you can see, Connor really pulled it back the weekend. He's closing in.
If it weren't for Scott McTominay scoring last-minute winner, I'd have been within 2 points. But I tell you, it's Crystal Palace. Let's just say Crystal Palace 0-0 every week, and it always happens.
Yeah, that's it. We won't talk about Man United. I'm depressed as it is. All right, we'll leave this video there. Like I said, check out the video on the channel for the England that should be up shortly, and we'll see you over there. And until next time.